Welcome back, everybody, to episode 6 of Sip Read Repeat. I am your host, D. James, aka King Echo, and we are, of course, picking up once again in Gone Girl. Right now, we are in the middle of like what seems to be a crowd investigation. People in the neighborhood have come together and they are going to be searching for Amy. So we're going to pick up right now, actually, right after the first couple of paragraphs on page 91, which is just the first, paragraph leading to the next big chunk. Another hour in the volunteer center began, feeling like a family picnic. A few of my old girlfriends dropped by to say hello, introduce their kids. One of my mom's best friends, Vicky, came by with 3 of her granddaughters, bashful tweens, all in pink. Oh, forgot to mention, no liquid death today, just sipping on good old water. Grandkids. My mom had talked about grandkids a lot, as if it were doubtlessly going to happen. Whenever she bought a new piece of furniture, she'd explain she favored that particular style because it'll work for when there's grandkids. She wanted to live to see some grandkids. All her friends had some to spare. Amy and I once had my mom and go over for over for dinner to mark the bar's biggest week ever. I'd announced that we had reason to celebrate, and my mom had leaped from her seat, burst into tears, and hugged Amy, who also began weeping, murmuring from beneath my mom's smothering nuzzle, "He's talking about the bar. He's just talking about the bar." And then my mom tried hard to pretend she was just as excited about that. "Plenty of time for babies," she said in her most consoling voice, a voice that just made Amy start to cry again. Which was strange, since Amy had decided she didn't want kids, and she'd reiterated this fact several times. But the tears gave me a perverse wedge of hope that maybe she was changing her mind, because there really wasn't plenty of time. Amy was 37 when we moved to Carthage. She'd be 39 in October. And then I thought, we'll have to throw some fake birthday party or something if this is still going on. We'll have to mark it somehow, some ceremony for the volunteers, the media, something to revive attention. I'll have to pretend to be hopeful. "The prodigal son returns," said a nasally voice, and I turned to see a skinny man in a stretched out t-shirt next to me, scratching a handlebar mustache. My old friend, Stux Buckley, who had taken to calling me prodigal son, despite not knowing how to pronounce the word or what its meaning was. I assume he meant it as a fancy synonym for jackass. Stans Buckley. It sounded like a baseball player's name, and that was just what Stux was supposed to be, except he never had the talent, just the hard wish. He was the best in town growing up, but that wasn't good enough. He got the shock of his life in college when he was cut from the team, and it all went to shit after. Now he was an odd job stoner with twitchy moods. He had dropped by the bar a few times to pick up work, but he shook his head at every crappy day job chore I offered, chewing on the inside of his cheek, annoyed. "Come on, man, what else you got? You gotta have something else." "Stux," I said by way of greeting, waiting to see if he was in a friendly mood. "Hear the police are botching this royally," he said, tucking his hands into his armpits. "It's a little early to say that." "Come on, man, these little pansy-ass searches. I seen more effort put into finding the mayor's dog." Stuck's face was sunburned. I could feel the heat coming off him as he leaned in closer, giving me a blast of Listerine and Chaw. Don't know what that is. The Chaw, I know what Listerine is. "Why ain't they rounded up some people? Plenty of people in town to choose from. They ain't brought a single one in. Not a single one. What about the Blue Book Boys?" That's what I asked the lady detective. "What about the Blue Book Boys?" She wouldn't even answer me. "What are the Blue Book Boys? A gang?" "All those guys got laid off from the Blue Book plant last winter. No severance, nothing. You see some of the homeless guys wandering around town in packs looking real pissed? Probably Blue Book Boys." "I'm still not following you. Blue Book plant?" "You know, River Valley Printworks. On the edge of town. They made those blue books you use for essays and shit in college." "Oh, I didn't know. Now colleges use computers, whatnot, so bye-bye Blue Book Boys." "God, this whole town is shutting down," I muttered. "The Blue Book Boys, they drink, drug, harass people. I mean, they did that before, but they always had to stop, go back to work on Monday. Now they just run wild." Stux grinned his row of chipped teeth at me. He had paint flecks in his hair, his summer job since high school, house painting. "I specialize in trim work," he'd say, and wait for you to get the joke. If you didn't laugh, he'd explain it. "So the cops been out to the mall?" Stux asked. I started a confused shrug. Shit, man, didn't you used to be a reporter? Stux always seemed angry at my former occupation, like it was a lie that had stood too long. The Blue Book Boys, they all made themselves a nice little town over in the mall, squatting, drug deals. The police run them out every once in a while, but they're always back the next day. Anyway, that's what I told the lady detective. Search the fucking mall. Because some of them, they gang raped a girl there a month ago. I mean, you get a bunch of angry men together, and things aren't too good for women that comes across them. On my drive to the afternoon search area, I phoned Boney. Started in as soon as she said hello. Why isn't the mall being searched? The mall will be searched, Nick. We have cops heading over there right now. Oh, okay. Because a buddy of mine, Stux. I know him. He was talking about all the Blue Book boys. I know. Trust us, Nick. We got this. We want to find Amy as much as you do. Okay. Uh, thanks. My righteousness deflated. I gulped down my giant styrofoam cup of coffee and drove to my assigned area. 3 spots were being searched this afternoon. The Gully Boat Launch, now known as the place Nick spent the morning of, unseen by anyone. The Miller Creek Woods, which hardly deserved the name, you could see fast food restaurants through the tree line. And Wilkie Park, a nature spot with hiking and horse trails. I was assigned to Wilkie Park. When I arrived, the local officer was addressing a crowd of about 12 people, all thick legs and tight shorts, sunglasses and hats, zinc oxide on noses. It looked like opening day of camp. 2 different TV crews were out to capture images for local stations. It was the 4th of July weekend. Amy would be squeezed in between state fair stories and barbecue cook-offs. One cub reporter kept mosquitoing around me, peppering me with pointless questions, my body giving immediately stiff, inhumane with the attention, my concerned face looking fake. A waft of horse manure hung in the air. The reporter soon left to follow the volunteers into the trails. What kind of journalist finds a suspicious husband ripe for the picking and leaves? A bad, low-paid journalist left behind after all the decent ones had been laid off. A young uniformed cop told me to stand, right here, at the entry to the various trails, near a bulletin board that held a mess of ancient flyers, as well as a missing person notice for Amy, my wife staring out of that photo. She'd been everywhere today, following me. What should I be doing? I asked the officer. I feel like a jackass here. I need something to do. Somewhere in the woods, a horse whinnied mournfully. We really need you right here, Nick. Just be friendly, be encouraging, he said, and pointed to the bright orange thermos next to me. Offer water, just point anyone who comes in my way. He turned and walked toward the stables. It occurred to me that they were intentionally barring me from any possible crime scene. I wasn't sure what that meant. As I stood aimlessly, pretending to busy myself with the cooler, a latecomer SUV rolled in, shiny red as nail polish. Out poured the 40-somethings from headquarters. The prettiest woman, the one Boney picked as a groupie, was holding her hair up in a ponytail so one of her friends could bug spray the back of her neck. The woman waved at the fumes elaborately. She glanced at me at the corner of her eye. Then she stepped away from her friends, let her hair fall down around her shoulders, and began picking her way over to me, that stricken, sympathetic smile on her face. The "I'm so sorry" smile. Giant brown pony eyes, her pink shirt ending just above crisp white shorts. High-heeled sandals, curled hair, gold hoops. This, I thought, is not how you dress for a search. Please don't talk to me, lady. Hi, Nick. I'm Shauna Kelly. I'm so sorry. She had an unnecessarily loud voice, a bit of a bray like some enchanted hot donkey. She held out her hand, and I felt a flick of alarm as Shauna's friends started ambling toward the trail, casting girl-click glances back toward us, the couple. I offered what I had, my thanks, my water, my lips swallowing awkwardness. Shauna didn't make any move to leave, even though I was staring ahead toward the trail where her friends had disappeared. I hope you have friends, relatives, who are looking out for you during this, Nick, she said, swatting a horsefly. Men forget to take care of themselves. Comfort food is what you need. We've been eating mostly cold cuts. You know, fast, easy. I could still taste the salami in the back of my throat, the fumes floating up from my belly. I became aware that I hadn't brushed my teeth since the morning. Oh, you poor man. Well, cold cuts, that won't do it. She shook her head, the gold hoops flickering sunlight. You need to keep up your strength. Now, you are lucky because I make a mean chicken Frito pie. You know what? I am going to put that together and drop it by the volunteer center tomorrow. You can just microwave it whenever you want a nice warm dinner. Oh, that sounds like too much trouble. Really? We're fine. We really are. You'll be more than fine after you eat a good meal, she said, patting my arm. Silence. She tried another angle. I really hope it doesn't end up having anything to do with our homeless problem, she said. I swear I have filed complaint after complaint. One broke into my garden last month. My motion sensor went off until I peeked outside, and there he was, kneeling in the dirt, just guzzling tomatoes, gnawing at them like apples. His face and shirt were covered in juices and seeds. I tried to scare him off, but he loaded up at least 20 before he ran off. They were on the edge anyway, those blue book guys. No other skills. I felt a sudden affinity for the troop of blue book men, pictured myself walking into their bitter encampment, waving a white flag. I am your brother. I used to work in print too. The computer stole my job too. They took our jobs. You know where that reference is from? Don't tell me you're too young to remember blue books, Nick, Shauna was saying. She poked me in the rib, making me jump more than I should have. I'm so old I'd forgotten about blue books until you reminded me. She laughed. What are you, 31, 32? Try 34. A baby. The trio of energetic elderly ladies arrived just then, tromping toward us, one working her cell phone, all wearing sturdy canvas garden skirts, keds, and sleeveless golf tops, revealing wobbly arms. They nodded at me respectfully, then flicked a glance of disapproval when they saw Shauna. We looked like a couple hosting a backyard barbecue. We looked inappropriate. Please go away, Shauna, I thought. So anyway, the homeless guys, they can be really aggressive, like threatening toward women, Shauna said. I mentioned it to Detective Boney, but I get the feeling she doesn't like me very much. Why do you say that? I already knew what she was going to say. The mantra of all attractive women. Women don't like me all that much, she shrugged. Just one of those things. Does Amy have a lot of friends in town? A number of women, friends of my mom's, friends of Go's, had invited Amy to book clubs and Amway parties and girls' nights at Chili's. Amy had predictably declined all but a few, which she attended and hated. We ordered a million little fried things and drank cocktails made from ice cream. Shauna was watching me, wanting to know about Amy, wanting to be grouped together with my wife. Who would hate her? I think she may have the same problem you do, I said in a clipped voice. She smiled. Leave, Shauna. It's hard to come to a new town, she said. Hard to make friends. The older you get. Is she your age? 38. That seemed to please her too. Go the fuck away. Smart man. Likes them older women. She pulled a cell phone out of her giant chartreuse handbag. Laughing. Come here, she said, and pulled an arm around me. Give me a big chicken Frito casserole smile. I wanted to smack her. Right then. The obliviousness, the girliness of her. Trying to get an ego stroke from the husband of a missing woman. I swallowed my rage, tried to hit reverse, tried to overcompensate and be nice. So I smiled robotically as she pressed her face against my cheek and took a photo with her phone. The fake camera click sound waking me. She turned the phone around and I saw our two sunburned faces pressed together, smiling as if we were on a date at the baseball game. Looking at my smarmy grin, my hooded eyes, I thought, I would hate this guy. Nick is very interesting. I feel like he definitely is an asshole, but he knows he's an asshole. I don't know if he wants to fix it, but he's very aware. Amy Elliott Dunn, September 15th, 2010. Diary entry. I am writing from somewhere in Pennsylvania, southwest corner, a motel off the highway. Our room overlooks the parking lot, and if I peek out from behind the stiff beige curtains, I can see people milling about under the fluorescent lights. It's the kind of place where people mill about. I have the emotional bends again. Too much has happened, and so fast, and now I am in southwest Pennsylvania, and my husband is enjoying a defiant sleep amid the little packets of chips and candies he bought from the vending machine down the hall. Dinner. He is angry at me for not being a good sport. I thought I was putting up a convincing front. Hooray, a new adventure. But I guess not. Now that I look back, it was like we were waiting for something to happen. Like Nick and I were sitting under a giant soundproof, windproof jar, and then the jar fell over, and there was something to do. 2 weeks ago, we are in our usual unemployed state, partly dressed, thick with boredom, getting ready to eat a silent breakfast that will stretch over the reading of a newspaper in its eternity. In its entirety. We even read the auto supplement now. Nick's cell phone rings at 10 a.m., and I can tell by his voice that it is go. He sounds springy, boyish, the way that he always does when he talks to her. The way he used to sound, the way he used to sound with me. He heads into the bedroom and shuts the door, leaving me holding two freshly made Eggs Benedicts quivering on the plates. I place his on the table and sit opposite, wondering if I should wait to eat. If it were me, I think, I would come back out and tell him to eat, or else I'd raise a finger just 1 minute. I'd be aware of the other person, my spouse, left in the kitchen with a plate of eggs. I feel bad that I was thinking that, because soon I can hear worried murmurs and upset exclamations and gentle reassurances from behind the door, and I begin wondering if Go is having some back home boy troubles. Go has a lot of breakups. Even the ones that she instigates require much hand-holding and goo-gawing from Nick. So I have my usual poor Go face on when Nick emerges, the eggs harden on the plate. I see him and know this isn't just a Go problem. My mom, he starts and sits down. Shit. My mom has cancer, stage 4, and it spreads the liver and bones, which is bad, he puts his face in his hands, and I go over and put my arms around him. When he looks up, he is dry-eyed, calm. I've never seen my husband cry. It's too much for Go, on top of my dad's Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's? Since when? Well, a while. At first I thought it was some sort of early dementia, but it's worse. I think immediately that there is something wrong with us, perhaps unfixable, if my husband wouldn't think to tell me this. Sometimes I feel like it's his personal game, that he's in some sort of undeclared contest for impenetrability. Why didn't you say anything to me? My dad isn't someone I like to talk about that much. But still, Amy, please. He has that look, like I am being unreasonable. Like he is so sure I am being unreasonable that I wonder if I am. But now, Go says with my mom, she'll need chemo, but she'll be really, really sick. She'll need help. Should we start looking for in-home care for her, a nurse? She doesn't have that kind of insurance. He stares at me, arms crossed, and I know what he is daring me to offer to pay. And we can't, because I've given my money to my parents. Okay then, babe, I say. What do you want to do? We stand across from each other, a showdown, as if we are in a fight and I haven't been informed. I reach out to touch him, and he just looks at my hand. We have to move back. He glares at me, opening his eyes wide. He flicks his finger out as if he is trying to rid himself of something sticky. We'll take a year and we'll go do the right thing. We have no jobs. We have no money. There's nothing holding us here. Even you have to admit that. Even I have to, as if I am already being resistant. I feel a burst of anger that I swallow. This is what we're going to do. We are going to do the right thing. We are going to help my parents for once. Of course, it's what we have to do. And of course, if he had presented the problem to me like I wasn't his enemy, that's what I would have said. But he came out of the door already treating me like a problem that needed to be dealt with. I was the bitter voice that needed to be squelched. My husband is the most loyal man on the planet, until he's not. I've seen his eyes literally turn a shade darker when he felt betrayed by a friend, even a dear longtime friend, and then the friend is never mentioned again. He looked at me. He looked at me then like I was an object to be jettisoned if necessary. It actually chilled me, that look. So it is decided that quickly, with that little of a debate. We are leaving New York. We are going to Missouri, to a house in Missouri by the river where we will live. It is surreal, and I am not one to misuse the word surreal. I know it will be okay. It's just so far from what I pictured when I pictured my life. That's not to say bad, just if you gave me a million guesses where life would take me, I wouldn't have guessed. I find that alarming. The packing of the U-Haul is a mini tragedy. Nick, determined and guilty, his mouth a tight line, getting it done, unwilling to look at me. The U-Haul sits for hours, blocking traffic on our little street, blinking its hazard lights. Danger, danger, danger. As Nick goes up and down the stairs, a one-man assembly line, carrying boxes of books, boxes of kitchen supplies, chairs, side tables. We are bringing our vintage sofa, our broad old Chesterfield that Dad calls our pet, We dote on it so much. It is to be the last thing we pack, a sweaty, awkward two-person job. Getting the massive thing down our stairs. Hold on, I need to rest. Lift to the right. Hold on, you're going too fast. Watch out, my fingers, my fingers. Will be its own much needed team building exercise. After the sofa, we'll pick up lunch from the corner deli, bagel sandwiches to eat on the road, cold soda. Nick lets me keep the sofa, but our other big items are staying in New York. One of Nick's friends will inherit the bed. The guy will come by later to our empty home, nothing but dust and cable cords left, and take the bed. And then he'll live his New York life in our New York bed, eating 2 a.m. Chinese food and having lazy condom sex with tipsy brass-mouthed girls who worked in PR. Our home itself will be taken over by a noisy couple, hubby-wife lawyers, who are shamelessly, brazenly gleeful at this buyer's market deal. I hate them. I carry one load for every 4 that Nick grunts down. I move slowly, shuffling like my bones hurt, a feverish delicacy descending on me. Everything does hurt. Nick buzzes past me, going up or down, and throws his frown at me, snaps, "You okay?" and keeps moving before I answer, leaves me gaping, a cartoon with a black mouth hole. I am not okay. I will be okay, but right now, I am not okay. I want my husband to put his arms around me, to console me, to baby me a little bit, just for a second. Inside the back of the truck, he fusses with the boxes. Nick prides himself on his packing skills. He was, the loader of the dishwasher, the packer of the holiday bags. But by hour 3, it is clear that we've sold or gifted too many of our belongings. The U-Haul's massive cavern is only half full. It gives me my single satisfaction of the day, that hot, mean satisfaction right in the belly, like a nib of mercury. Good, I think. Good. "We can take the bed if you really want to," Nick says, looking past me down the street. "We have enough room." "No, you promised it to Wally. Wally should have it," I say primly. "I was wrong, just say. Just say, I was wrong. I'm sorry, let's take the bed. You should have your old comforting bed in this new place. Smile at me and be nice to me. Today, be nice to me." Nick blows out a sigh. "Okay, if that's what you want. Amy, is it?" He stands slightly breathless, leaning on a stack of boxes, the top one with magic marker scrawl, "Amy Close Winter." "This is the last I'll hear about the bed, Amy, because I'm offering right now. I'm happy to pack the bed for you." "How gracious of you," I say, just a whiff of breath, the way I say most retorts, a puff of perfume from a rank atomizer. I am a coward. I don't like confrontation. I pick up a box and start toward the truck. "What did you say?" I shake my head at him. I don't want him to see me cry, because it'll make him more angry. 10 years later, 10 minutes later, the stairs are pounding. Bang, bang, bang. Nick is dragging our sofa down by himself. I can't even look behind me as we leave New York because the truck has no back window. In the side mirror, I track the skyline, the receding skyline. Isn't that what they write in Victorian novels where the doomed heroine is forced to leave her ancestral home? But none of the good buildings, not the Chrysler or the Empire State or the Flatiron, they never appear in that little shining rectangle. My parents dropped by the night before, presented us with the family cuckoo clock that I loved as a child, and the 3 of us cried and hugged as Nick shuffled his hands in his pockets and promised to take care of me. He promised to take care of me, and yet I feel afraid. I feel like something is going wrong, very wrong, and that it will get even worse. I don't feel like Nick's wife. I don't feel like a person at all. I am something to be loaded and unloaded, like a sofa or a cuckoo clock. I am something to be tossed into a junkyard, thrown into the river if necessary. I don't feel real anymore. I feel like I could disappear. Nick Dunn, 3 days gone. The police weren't going to find Amy unless someone wanted her found. That much was clear. Everything green and brown had been searched. Miles of the muddy Mississippi River, all the trails and hiking paths, our sad collection of patchy woods. If she were alive, someone would need to return her. If she were dead, nature would have to give her up. It was a palpable truth, like a sour taste in the tongue tip. I arrived at the volunteer center and realized everyone else knew this too. There was a listlessness, a defeat that hung over the place. I wandered aimlessly over to the pastry station and tried to convince myself to eat something. Danish. I come to believe there was no food more depressing than Danish, a pastry that seemed stale upon arrival. I still say it's the river, one volunteer was saying to his buddy, both of them picking through the pastry with dirty fingers. Right behind the guy's house. What easier way? She would have been turned up in an eddy by now. A lot something. Not that if she's been cut, chop off the legs, the arms, the body can shoot all the way to the Gulf. Tunica. Tunica? At least. I turned away before they noticed me. A former teacher of mine, Mr. Coleman, sat at a card table, hunched over the tip line phone, scribbling down information. When I caught his eye, he made the cuckoo signal, fingers circling his ear, then pointing at the phone. He had greeted me yesterday by saying, my granddaughter was killed by a drunk driver, so we'd murmured and patted each other awkwardly. My cell phone rang, the disposable. I couldn't figure out where to keep it, so I kept it on me. I made a call, and the call was being returned, but I couldn't take it. I turned the phone off, scanned the room to make sure the Elliots hadn't seen me do it. Mary Beth was clicking away on her BlackBerry, then holding it at arm's length so she could read the text. When she saw me, she shot over in her tight, quick steps, holding the BlackBerry in front of her like a talisman. How many hours from here is Memphis, she asked. A little under 5 hours driving. What's in Memphis? Hillary Handy lives in Memphis. Amy's stalker from high school? How much of a coincidence is that? I didn't know what to say. None? Yeah, Gilpin blew me off too. We can't authorize the expense for something that happened 20-some years ago. Asshole. Guy always treats me like I'm on the verge of hysteria. He'll talk to Rand when I'm right there, totally ignore me, like I need my husband to explain things to little dumb me. Asshole. Mom's feisty. The city's broke, I said. I'm sure they really don't have the budget, Mary Beth. Well, we do. I'm serious, Nick. This girl was off her rocker, and I know she tried to contact Amy over the years. Amy told me. She never told me that. What's it cost to drive there? $50? Fine. Will you go? You said you'd go. Please? I won't be able to stop thinking until I know someone's talked to her. I knew this to be true, at least, because her daughter suffered from the same tenacious worry streak. Amy could spend an entire evening out fretting that she left the stove on, even though we didn't cook that day. Or was the door locked? Was I sure? She was a worst-case scenarist on a grand scale, because it was never just the door was unlocked. It was the door was unlocked and men were inside, and they were ready to rape and kill her. I felt a layer of sweat shimmer to the surface of my skin because, finally, my wife's fears had come to fruition. Imagine the awful satisfaction to know that all those years of worry had paid off. Of course I'll go, and I'll stop by St. Louis, see the other one, Desi, on the way. Consider it done. I turned around, started my dramatic exit, got 20 feet, and suddenly, there was Stux again, but his entire face still slack with sleep. Heard the cops search the mall yesterday, he said, scratching his jaw. In his other hand, he held a glazed donut, unbitten. A bagel-shaped budge sat in the front pocket of his cargo pants. I almost made a joke. Is that a baked good, or are you... Yeah, nothing. Yesterday? They went yesterday? The jackasses. He ducked, looked around as if he'd worried they'd overhear him. He leaned closer to me. You go at night, that's when they're there. Daytime, they're down by the river, or out flying a flag. Flying a flag? You know, sitting by the exits on the highway with those signs, laid off, please help, need beer money, whatever, he said, scanning the room. Flying a flag, man. Okay. At night, they're at the mall, he said. Let's go tonight, I said. You and me and whoever. Joe and Mikey Hilson, Stux said. They'd be up for it. The Hilsons were 3-4 years older than me, town badasses. The kind of guys who were born without the fear gene, impervious to pain. Jock kids who sped through the summers on short, muscled legs, playing baseball, drinking beer, taking strange dares, skateboarding into drainage ditches, climbing water towers naked. The kind of guys who'd peel up wild-eyed on a boring Saturday night and you knew something would happen. Maybe nothing good, but something. Of course the Hilsons would be up for it. Good, I said. Tonight we go. My disposable rang in my pocket. The thing didn't turn off right. It rang again. You gonna get that? Stux asked. Nah. You should answer every call, man. You really should. There was nothing to do for the rest of the day. No searches planned, no more flyers needed, the phones fully manned. Mary Beth started sending volunteers home. They were just standing around, eating, bored. I suspected Stux of leaving with half of the breakfast table in his pockets. Anyone hear from the detectives? Rand asked. Nothing, Mary Beth and I both answered. That may be good, right? Rand asked, hopeful eyes, and Mary Beth and I indulged him. Yes, sure. When are you leaving for Memphis? She asked me. Tomorrow. Tonight my friends and I are doing another search of the mall. We don't think it was done right yesterday. Excellent, Mary Beth said. That's the kind of action we need. When we suspect it wasn't done right the first time, we do it ourselves. Because I'm just not that impressed with what's been done so far. Rand put a hand on his wife's shoulder, a signal this refrain had been expressed and received many times. I'd like to come with you, Nick, he said. Tonight, I'd like to come. Rand was wearing a powder blue golf shirt and olive slacks, his hair a gleaming dark helmet. I pictured him trying to hail fellow the Hilson brothers, doing his slightly desperate one of the guys routine. Hey, I love a good beer too, and how about that sports team of yours? I felt a flush of impending awkwardness. Of course, Rand, of course. I had a good 10 unscheduled hours to work with. My car was being released back to me, having been processed and vacuumed and printed, I assume. So I hitched a ride to the police station with an elderly volunteer, one of those bustling, grandmotherly types who seemed slightly nervous to be alone with me. I'm just driving Mr. Dunn to the police station, but I'll be back in less than half an hour, she said to one of her friends. No more than half an hour. Gilpin had not taken Amy's second note into evidence. He'd been too thrilled with the underwear to bother. I got in my car, flung the door open, and sat as the heat drooled out. Reread my wife's second clue. Picture me. I'm crazy about you. My future is anything but hazy with you. You took me here so I could hear you chat about your boyhood adventures, crummy jeans and visor hat. Screw everyone else. For us, they're all ditched. And let's sneak a kiss. Pretend we just got hitched. It was Hannibal, Missouri, boyhood home of Mark Twain, where I'd worked summers growing up, where I wandered the town dressed as Huck Finn in an old straw hat and faux ragged pants, smiling scampishly while urging people to visit the ice cream shop. It was one of those stories you dine out on, at least in New York, because no one else could match it. No one could ever say, oh yeah, me too. The visor hat comment was a little inside joke. When I first told Amy I played Huck, we were out to dinner, into our second bottle of wine, and she'd been adorably tipsy. Big grin and the flushed cheeks she got when she drank, leaning across the table as if I had a magnet on me. She kept asking me if I still had the visor, would I wear the visor for her, and when I asked her why in the name of all that was holy would she think that Huck Finn wore a visor, she swallowed once and said, oh, I meant a straw hat, as if those were two entirely interchangeable words. After that, anytime we watched tennis, we always complimented the players' sporty straw hats. That's cute. Hannibal was a strange choice for Amy. However, as I don't remember us having a particularly good or bad time there, just a time. I remember us ambling around almost a full year ago, pointing at things and reading placards and saying, that's interesting, while the other one agreed, that is. I've been there since without Amy, my nostalgic streak uncrushable, and had a glorious day, a wide grin, right with the world day. But with Amy, it had been still, rocked. A bit embarrassing. I remember at one point starting a goofy story about a childhood field trip here, and I saw her eyes go blank, and I got secretly furious. Spent 10 minutes just winding myself up, because at this point of our marriage, I was so used to being angry with her, it felt almost enjoyable, like gnawing on a cuticle. You know you should stop, that it doesn't feel as good as you think, but you can't quit grinding away. On the surface, of course, she saw nothing. We just kept walking and reading placards and pointing. It was a fairly awful reminder, the dearth of good memories we had since our move, that my wife was forced to pick Hannibal for her treasure hunt. I reached Hannibal, whatever, in 20 minutes, drove past the glorious Gilded Age courthouse that now held only a chicken wing place in its basement, and headed past a series of shuttered businesses, ruined community banks, and defunct movie houses toward the river. I parked in a lot on the Mississippi, smack in front of the Mark Twain. Wow, my mouth just can't keep up right now. Smack in front of the Mark Twain riverboat. Parking was free. I never failed to thrill to the novelty, the generosity of free parking. Free parking is sick. Banners of the white made man hung listlessly from lampposts. Posters curled up in the heat. It was a blow-dryer hot day, but even so, Hannibal seemed disturbingly quiet. As I walked along the few blocks of souvenir stores, quilts and antiques and taffy, I saw more for sale signs. Becky Thatcher's house was closed for renovations, to be paid for with money that had yet to be raised. For $10, you could graffiti your name on Tom Sawyer's whitewashed fence, but there were a few takers. I sat in the doorstep of a vacant storefront. It occurred to me that I had bought Amy to the end of everything. We were literally experiencing the end of a way of a life, a phrase that applied only to New Guinea tribesmen and Appalachian glassblowers. The recession had ended the mall. Computers had ended the blue book plant. Carthage had gone bust. Its sister city, Hannibal, was losing ground to brighter, louder, cartoonier tourist spots. My beloved Mississippi River was being eaten in reverse by Asian carp flip-flopping their way up toward Lake Michigan. Amazing Amy was done. It was the end of my career, the end of hers, the end of my father, the end of my mom, the end of our marriage, the end of Amy. The ghost wheeze of this steamboat horn blew out from the river. I had sweated through the back of my shirt. I made myself stand up. I made myself buy my tour ticket. I walked the route Amy and I had taken, my wife still beside me in my mind. It was hot that day, too. You are brilliant. In my imagination, she strolled next to me, and this time she smiled. My stomach went oily. I mind-walked my wife around the main tourist drag. A gray-haired couple paused to peer into the Huckleberry Finn house, but didn't bother to walk in. At the end of the block, a man dressed as Twain, white hair, white suit, got out of a Ford Focus, stretched, looked down a lonely street, and ducked into a pizza joint. And then there we were, at the clapboard building that had been courtroom of Samuel Clemens' dad. The sign out front read, J.M. Clemens, Justice of the Peace. Let's sneak a kiss, pretend we just got hitched. You're making these so nice and easy, Amy, as if you actually want me to find them, to feel good about myself. Keep this up and I'll break my record. No one was inside. I got down on my knees on the dusty floorboards and peered under the first bench. If Amy left a clue in a public place, she always taped it to the underside of things, in between the wadded gum and dust, and she always vindicated because no one likes to look at the underside of things. There was nothing under the first bench, but there was a flap of paper hanging down from the bench behind. I climbed over and tugged down the Amy blue envelope, a piece of tape winging off of it. Hi, darling husband. You found it. Brilliant man. It may help that I decided to not make this year's treasure hunt an excruciating forced march through my arcane personal memories. I took a cue from your beloved Mark Twain. What ought to be done to the man who invented the celebrating of anniversaries? Mere killing would be too light. I finally get it. What you've said year after year, this treasure hunt should be a time to celebrate us, not a test about whether you remember everything I think or say throughout the year. You'd think that would be something a grown woman would realize on her own, but I guess that's what husbands are for. To point out what we can't see for ourselves, even if it takes 5 years. So I want to take a moment now, in the childhood stomping grounds of Mark Twain, and thank you for your wit. You are truly the cleverest, funniest person I know. I have a wonderful sense memory. Of all the times over the years you've leaned into my ear, I can feel your breath tickling my lobe right now as I'm writing this, and whisper something just to me, just to make me laugh. What a generous thing that is, I realize, for a husband to try to make his wife laugh. And you always pick the best moments. Do you remember when Inslee and her dancing monkey husband made us come over to admire their baby, and we did the obligatory visit to their strangely perfect, over-flowered, over-muffined house for brunch and baby meeting, and they were so self-righteous and patronizing of our childless state? And meanwhile, there was their hideous boy, covered in streaks of slobber and stewed carrots and maybe some feces, naked except for a frilly bib and a pair of knitted booties. And as I sipped my orange juice, he leaned over and whispered, "That's what I'll be wearing later." And I literally did a spit take. It was one of those moments where you saved me, made me laugh at just the right time. Just one olive, though, so let me say it again. You are witty. Now kiss me. I felt my soul deflate. Amy was using the treasure hunt to steer us back to each other, and it was too late. While she had been writing these clues, she had no idea my state of mind. Why, Amy, couldn't you have done this sooner? Our timing had never been good. I opened the next clue, read it, tucked it in my pocket, then headed back home. I knew where to go, but I wasn't ready yet. I couldn't handle another compliment, another kind word from my wife, another olive branch. My feelings for her were veering too quickly from bitter to sweet. I went back to Go's, spent a few hours alone drinking coffee and flipping around the TV, anxious and pissy, killing time till my 11 p.m. carpool to the mall. My twin got home just after 7, looking wilted from her solo bar shift. Her glance at the TV told me I should turn it off. What'd you do today? She asked, lighting a cigarette and flopping down at our mother's old card table. Man, the volunteer center. Then we go search the mall at 11. I said I didn't want to tell her about Amy's clue. I felt guilty enough. Gold doled out some solitaire cards, steady slapping them on the table to rebuke. I began pacing. She ignored me. I was just watching TV to distract myself. I know, I do. She flipped over a jack. There's gotta be something I can do, I said, stalking around her living room. Well, you're searching the mall in a few hours, Go said, and gave no more encouragement. She flipped over 3 cards. You said like you think it's a waste of time. Oh, no. Hey, everything is worth checking out. They got Son of Sam on a parking ticket, right? Go was the third person who mentioned this to me. It must be the mantra for cases getting cold. I sat down across from her. I haven't been upset enough about Amy, I said. I know that. Maybe not. She finally looked up at me. You're being weird. I think that instead of panicking, I'm just focused on being pissed at her because we were in such a bad place lately. It's like it feels wrong for me to worry too much because I didn't have the right. I guess. You've been weird, I can't lie, Go said. But it's a weird situation. She stubbed out her cigarette. I don't care how you are with me. Just be careful with everyone else, okay? People judge fast. She went back to her solitaire, but I wanted her attention. I kept talking. I should probably check in on Dad at some point, I said. I don't know if I'll tell him about Amy. No, she said, don't. He was even weirder about Amy than you are. I always felt like she must remind him of an old girlfriend or something. The one who got away. I made the downward swoop of a hand that signified his Alzheimer's. He was kind of rude and awful, but he kind of wanted to impress her at the same time, she said. Your basic jerky 12-year-old boy trapped in a 68-year-old asshole's body. Don't women think all men are jerky 12-year-olds at heart? Hey, if the heart fits. You know what, guys? We're going to pause right there. It looks like coming up soon will be the trip to the mall. So I think this is a great point, a nice little cliffhanger, a kind of sweet moment between Nick and his sister. We'll pause it right there. Thank you so much for being here again for episode 6, and we'll see you next time. Peace.